According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, concussions have become a public health concern. In Hawaii, there are approximately 1,000 concussions reported every year in high school athletics. The purpose of this video is to provide concussion education and awareness to parents and guardians. As a parent or guardian, you should know Hawaii's concussion law, signs and symptoms of a concussion, what to do if a concussion occurs, what are the criteria for an athlete to return back to play. Every state in the U.S. has a concussion law. In Hawaii, the concussion law requires mandatory removal from play when a concussion is suspected. Concussed athletes are required to have a physician clearance to begin participating in practice and games. And annual concussion education awareness is mandatory for parents, coaches, sports officials, and school staff. Parents and guardians need to understand that these laws are made to protect their children. By law, organizations are required to provide annual training for parents and guardians. Parents and guardians are responsible for taking their child to their physician for follow-up care and to obtain a written medical clearance prior to returning to participation. A concussion is a type of brain injury. Dr. Jennifer King explains what exactly a concussion is.
A concussion basically is a brain injury, and actually in Latin it means to shake violently. So what happens with the concussion is that there's enough force to the body or to the head that causes the brain to shake inside the skull, and when that happens, all the chemicals that normally regulate the entire body go off balance.
Here are some important things to remember. You don't have to get hit in the head to sustain a concussion. Blows to the body send impulse forces to the head, like a whiplash motion. That causes the head to move violently and may cause a concussion. Medical imaging such as CT scans, MRI, and X-rays will not diagnose a concussion because a concussion is not a structural injury. A concussion is a metabolic functional injury. Concussed athletes will describe their symptoms differently, and no two concussions are alike. A key to protecting our athlete is being able to recognize the signs and symptoms of a concussion. The signs and symptoms of a concussion can either be observed by a coach, parent, or reported by the athlete.
When we are covering a game on the field, the things that we look for on the athletes is based on, one, the hit itself. So if we're lucky enough for either the coach, the athletic trainer, or the physician to see the hit, then sometimes that can make us worry that the athlete sustained a concussion. If they complain of symptoms, then it makes it a little bit easier because then you can kind of look at all the symptoms they're having and correlate it with the hit that they had. But then also just watching them, how they return to play. So are they slow to get up after they get a hit? Are they able to maintain their balance? Do they remember their plays? Are their friends telling us that they're complaining about symptoms? So those are the things that we look for on the field.
So they're holding their head. When an athlete's body appears to go limp or crumbles immediately after a hit and they don't move. When an athlete gets up and staggers around clumsily. When an athlete is very slow to respond to my questions. If I observe any of these signs, the athlete is removed immediately and he or she will be assessed on the sidelines and managed appropriately. Sideline assessment would include symptom monitoring, balance assessment, questions to assess orientation and concentration. We'd also do some special tests such as vestibular ocular motor screening, or VOMS, to assess visual function and reflexes.
Some of the commonly reported symptoms an athlete may report to a coach or parent are headaches, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, drowsiness, or dizziness. It's also important to know that throughout recovery, symptoms change and vary. For example, during the early stages, right after injury, the concussed athlete may complain primarily of a headache, dizziness, and fatigue. A few days later, maybe after 4 or 5 days, symptoms may become more cognitive, like difficulty concentrating, difficulty remembering, and anxiousness. No concussions are alike, and everyone's concussion symptoms and recovery times will vary. Coaches and parents need to understand that continuing to play can have short-term, long-term, and possible catastrophic outcomes. Some of the evidence-based research that demonstrates the dangers of continuing to play with a concussion are: a concussed athlete who continues to play is at an exponentially greater risk for long-term or catastrophic brain injury. A concussed athlete who continues to play with a concussion will prolong the recovery and create a more complicated recovery. A concussed athlete is more prone to lower extremity musculoskeletal injury. A concussed athlete's athletic performance will decrease. Concussion Law's aim is to protect concussed athletes from potential catastrophic events. Every law in the U.S. mandates that an athlete with a suspected concussion be immediately removed from participation until cleared by a physician.
Second impact syndrome is somewhat of a controversial diagnosis, but essentially it's a brain injury that you sustain after already sustaining another brain injury that you're not yet fully recovered from. The danger is it causes a catastrophic swelling of the brain, and it's one of the main reasons why we're so careful about making sure someone's completely over their concussion, which is a kind of brain injury, before sending them back out where they could sustain another blow. So it's thought in second impact syndrome that when the brain sustains a second injury while it's still recovering from another, that the brain loses its normal ability to quote-unquote auto-regulate the blood flow that comes in and how much pressure is inside the brain. And over a really short period of time, it can be seconds to minutes, the brain can sustain significant swelling inside the skull and cause catastrophic injury.
Recovering from a concussion is not an easy task for a young child or adolescent. Unlike other injuries, concussions can affect all aspects of an individual's life, including academic performance, social interactions, and mental health. Here are some important points to remember. During the first 72 hours after a concussion, physical and cognitive rest is important. After 72 hours, a reintegration into a daily routine is recommended. A general rule is that if your child's symptoms worsen, then you should rest for a little while or stop what you are doing altogether. Constant sleep is important. Avoid frequent napping and get on a sleep schedule. Nutrition and hydration is also key in providing energy for your recovering brain. As a parent or guardian, it's important to understand that a concussion not only affects sports participation, but also affects how a student learns. Tasks like learning new material to recalling learned information can be difficult and stressful to the concussed individual. A concussion can even affect vision and ocular function, which may lead to difficulty reading and focusing. Students with a concussion reported more in-school problems such as difficulty paying attention, understanding new materials, slower performance when doing schoolwork, and fatigue in classes. It is extremely important to let the school know your child has a concussion and is under a physician's care. If you would like more information on concussions and returning to learn, visit HawaiiConcussion.com or GetSchooledOnConcussions.com. Coaches, parents, and guardians need to be aware that an athlete may start a return-to-play protocol when the athlete is cleared by a physician. A gradual return-to-play protocol ensures that the athlete is gradually progressed back into the sport and contact. Important points to remember. To begin return-to-play protocol, the concussed athlete must be cleared by a physician and is reporting no symptoms. Each step of the protocol is divided up into 24-hour periods. Work with your athletic trainer on the gradual return-to-play protocol, and if you need more information on this, go to HawaiiConcussion.com. Concussions can occur in any sport. Researchers are finding ways to reduce the risk of concussions. But what can parents do now? It starts with concussion education, awareness, and encouraging athletes to report any suspected concussions.
I didn't want to report my concussion mainly because I wanted to keep playing football. I didn't want to lose my starting spot, or I just felt like, you know, this is like minor, this is nothing. Like, people have injuries all the time, you know, and they just play through them and it'll eventually just get better, but that just wasn't the case. If I had a chance to do things differently, I would take it seriously, because knowing that, you know, at this time, football may seem like it's life, you know, football may seem so important, but looking down the road, like, I have to realize that football isn't life. Like, there's more to life than football, and you only have one brain and one head. Take it seriously and really kind of, I guess, realize like the consequences of having a concussion or how it could affect you long term. So yeah, I take it seriously and really work and try to get better.
Here are some reasons why players don't want to report their concussions. They will lose playing time. They don't want to let their teammates down. they may feel pressure to continue to play from coach and parents. It is important that coaches, parents, and guardians realize they can have a significant impact on their players' safety, health, and well-being. We ask parents and guardians to discuss and encourage their child that they take care of themselves and their teammates, and don't be afraid to report their concussions or concussion-like symptoms. We thank you for your time and your commitment to the development of our youth. If you would like more information on concussions, please visit HawaiiConcussion.com.